Welcome to the Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about creating more time freedom through passive real estate investing. Passive investing in real estate challenges conventional investment wisdom. We are passionate about learning and sharing resources with others who are ready to transform their investing mindset. Quick disclaimer as always, I am not a CPA, I am not an attorney or a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, not telling you or anyone else what to do. The views and opinions expressed in these podcasts are provided for education and informational purposes only and are not necessarily the views of my employer, ADP. I'm glad you're here. Now let's dig in. All right, welcome to the show, Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast listeners. Thanks for joining us today. Today I have my guest, Drew McWilliams. Drew is not only a close personal friend of mine, he also has a background in real estate, quite an extensive one, might I add. He's got a great track record and success in multiple entrepreneurial ventures, which I hope to hear more about. Drew is also a partner with me in Starting Point Capital, where we offer the opportunity to investors to earn passive income through real estate syndications. Drew resides with his wife in Charlotte, North Carolina, and their two children. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. Nice to be with you today.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in here today. Drew, I'd like you just to kind of open up and let our audience know a little bit more about what you're currently working on and focused on.
Sure. Well, thank you for the background information you gave. I do live in Charlotte, North Carolina with my beautiful wife and two children. Originally from Pennsylvania. Grew up loving real estate at an early age, and as a freshman in college, declared real estate as my major pretty quickly. It went into real estate officially, I guess, at age 19, whenever I had my first job in real estate, had two college internships, and that has brought me on the track where I am today, talking to you, and happy to talk to our listeners about Starting Point Capital. So been in the real estate space for 25 years now, had my real estate license for 22 of those years. So it's been great being able to go, I'll call it full circle, where I first started working in leasing apartments and multifamily apartment complexes in Fairfax, Virginia, then went on to Charlotte, North Carolina for my second internship. And that's where I decided to stay. And my career took me in real estate specifically from doing those two jobs to then I went on to new home sales with a new construction home builder, then got into rentals, owning my first brick and mortar rental property at age 25. I currently have 3 residential rentals, 4 commercial rentals, and then read an amazing book that it's called Passive Investing Made Simple about 6 months ago, and it's kind of a light bulb moment. It's like many people read books, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad was another one in my life that I'll call it was a life-changing opportunity to read a book and open my eyes. It's my analogy is watching The Matrix, right? You take the blue pill, I think it is, and your eyes gets open to a whole new world. And that's what it was whenever I read that book, Passive Investing Made Simple. In the last 6 months, I've dived straight in, I think you know, Jeremy, and I am just consuming as much information as possible. I've had the opportunity to invest in 4 different syndications now and opportunities in 4 different states around the country, 3 of those being with Starting Point. So I'm excited my journey. It's kind of coming full circle in the last 25 years where I started in the multifamily space, and now 25 years later, I'm back in the multifamily space.
That's great, Drew. Thanks for sharing that. So definitely I've heard of the blue pill, the red pill, and all the different colored pills, right? So glad to hear that you swallowed that blue one. And then the other question that I had for you, if you wouldn't mind, is maybe unpack a little bit more for us about what you're doing right now on the active real estate side. I know that you've been in active real estate. You certainly have an extensive experience in real estate in general, doing a number of different things. What are you currently focused on now in the active space? And second to that, is that your kind of longer term plan is to remain active in real estate? Or are you kind of in that mode where you're shifting now into more of a passive real estate investor?
Yeah, great question. It is definitely the latter of your statements. The commercial spaces that I have right now, I do believe that I will be holding on to those. Those are single tenants that have long-term leases, and those are great. And it also is an extra benefit to the other career and entrepreneurship journey that I have as well going on. As far as the residential, those are the ones that is 100% going to change. I have three right now, as I mentioned, and in the next 24 months to 36 months max, I fully believe that I will be transitioning out of all of those, selling those properties at the right time, and then taking advantage of investing that money into passive real estate deals. And really the reason why, and they've been really good and they've been very lucrative for me. I'm not gonna shrink from that. Really, now that I've been investing in these syndications and passive real estate, the opportunity to not have to take phone calls from tenants and deal with termites, trash, and evictions is a game changer. I had a tenant that just moved out, 60 days ago and absolutely just trashed the place. It was the first time that I've had a tenant. I've been very lucky in 20 some years of owning rentals. First time that I've ever had one. And I guess after 20 years, people would say, well, that's a pretty good track record, right? But it just burnt me out so much because I have another, priorities, and I have another job, another career that is, very consuming of my time and my passion. Me being the, property manager, operating person that does everything. I don't have a third party management company to come in, having to do that and taking that time away from A, my career, and B, my family, and three, my stress is just something that is just not worthwhile. So why I have that track record of looking 24 to 36 months out. I have tenants in all of my locations right now. They're all good paying tenants right now. But when they move out, then I plan on putting those properties on the market for sale.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I talk to a lot of investors every day that want to get into real estate, right? And most people, when they have a desire to get in the real estate game, they immediately go to buying that single family home, buying that duplex, buying that fourplex, right? Maybe house hacking. What would you say to that investor that has a couple $100,000 on the sidelines? They're looking to diversify into real estate, and immediately they go straight to buying a single family home to which they can fix, flip, and rent. What maybe instead, or what are the things that individual investor should really think about before they decide to plunge into the game of active real estate ownership?
I really, really like this question. And you're right. I think the human or maybe default that most people think about is exactly what you said. I want to own real estate. Most people realize that more millionaires have been created in our country through real estate than anything else, any other industry. So people understand the value of that. But what I would say is instead of just going in and buying that single family home and doing what you said, education. I think education is the key because just like taking red pill, blue pill, you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. And until someone just pauses for, I would say, 30 days before jumping in and doing that. And why I say 30 days, I think it's worth the education in reading a couple books or resources or talking to people like you and I, Jeremy, that can just educate people on what the other opportunities are. And I'm a big believer in everything I do in my life. I want all my options in front of me before I make a decision. I want to make the best, well-informed decision possible. And if somebody doesn't know anything about passive real estate investing, I think it's worth at least a 30-day education before you put your money down on something that could come back to not to be the right decision for you.
Yeah, interesting. Let me ask you another question. And I know you're probably not going to be able to disclose actual investor returns on this call, but would you say that in many cases, an investor could make more income in terms of a return on their investment, investing passively into a real estate investment opportunity versus doing it on an active basis?
The quick answer is yes. All right. And for twofold. Yes, the returns, and I know we can't talk specifics, but yes, the returns on passive real estate investing, I've seen it firsthand. I've had experience brick and mortar owning properties for the last 20 some years. And now I've seen passive real estate investing for the last 6 months. So I have a good, bar to be able to compare them to, both residential, commercial, and now passive. Passive has easily been the better investment for me on return. But also, there's another hidden factor that you didn't mention there, and that's my time. I can't put enough value on my time. It is the most valuable commodity that I have, not dollars and cents in a bank account, but my time. You have to factor a human's time into managing a property, when you own it, a brick and mortar one yourself, or that single family home, I'll call it, versus passively and putting the time multiple of yourself on top of that makes it that much more of a better investment.
Yeah, absolutely. I was also an active real estate investor a decade ago. My wife and I fixed and flipped homes. We rented those homes out and we made a decent amount of income. And I knew at the time that I can always create more money. Okay. I can always create more income by doing more. But the one thing that we can't create is more time, right? And so I realized there was that trade-off between creating more money by actively owning real estate versus investing that same amount of money on the passive side where I'm not actually having to do the work for that asset to perform. One question for you, Drew, along those same lines is, since you've pivoted or are in the process of pivoting from more of an active real estate investing role to a more passive real estate investing role, what are the three most important things, or not necessarily three, but what are one or two maybe most important things that you look for in a passive real estate investment opportunity?
Yeah, really, two things are, I think, are the most important. And I got to give you full credit. You equally helped me along this journey to know what to look for. Number one is the operator. I mean, that is a big deal. Someone that has a track record of success is number one. And let's unpack that a little bit more for our listeners to understand what a good operator looks like. A good operator is someone that has been in business for multiple years. This is not their first time. They have boots on the ground. Okay, meaning that they have a management staff, property management company in place in the same city of where that opportunity is. Okay. Hiring someone from out of state or hiring a third party management company is something that is just going to dilute all of the value to the opportunity, to the investors, and the return. So that's number one. Number two, it's market specific. And there's many people that I talk to that say, oh, is now the right time to buy real estate? And I don't care what year it is, what decade it is, no matter where the economy is at. That is everyone's question. Is now the time to buy real estate, or when's the bottom? I always want to buy at the bottom, right? Like that's so it really, that's not a universal question. People need to understand that it's very market specific. So, where I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, I think it's a great market. Maybe I'm a little biased, so let's take that out of play. But guess what? Dallas, Phoenix, they're blowing up right now. I don't know what's happening up in the Maines of the world. I don't know. Not to pick on Maine. I think it's a beautiful state. One of my best friends is from there. But I wouldn't invest the same in Maine as I would in Phoenix or Dallas per se. So take those two things into consideration whenever you look at different passive real estate investments.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. I wrote down a number of different words that you referenced there, and they all have the letter T in them to start. Okay. I heard trust. Okay. Trust in the sponsor. I heard track record of the sponsor. Have they been tested or battle tested, right? Territory, in your case, market location, right? Territory, timing, obviously, where is that market at in the market cycle, right? There are always opportunities at every stage of the market cycle in real estate, whether we're at a recession or we're in a exponential growth stage in the market cycle, or whether we're even at hyper supply, right? But real estate is always local, right? So there are markets that are in hyper supply, like Phoenix, for example. There's also markets that are in a recession, like Fresno, California, right? So it really depends on where that specific asset is located in. So thank you for sharing that. What are maybe some investing challenges that maybe you've come across along the way in real estate outside of the dealing with the tenants, trash, toilets, and termites, as you referenced earlier?
Okay, so I got two. I'll give you a funny story, and then I'll give you a one that really is painstaking. All right. So let's lead with the funny one first. In one of the residential properties I own, it was currently owned, probably about 8 years ago. I had there was a boyfriend girlfriend were co-tenants, all right, and I got a call from the boyfriend. It was a call in the evening, and he was talking about how he wants to break up with his girlfriend. How can he get off the lease? And he started saying bad things about his girlfriend. And then about 30 seconds later, I hear the girlfriend come over and like hit him and like say, "Why are you talking to me bad about that on the phone?" And it was just like, I can't. That was probably one of the crazier moments of something that I witnessed kind of on a phone call before. That was I'll call it a challenge, one of the most challenges, because I don't know how to deal. I don't know how to deal with that, right? As a landlord. Other than that, I'll tell you another challenge that I have had is, definitely. And you said, what is something other than tenants, trash, and termites? And it always comes down to that. I mean, it's the surprise element. And I posted this on LinkedIn this past week. It's always a challenge pops up when I have the least amount of time to deal with it. It's always when I'm the busiest in life or the busiest in my career that something pops up. It's just this kind of like the Murphy's Law thing that happens.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that personal story of one of your tenants. I'm just trying to think to myself, maybe you've got a future book coming out about that, and the title of that book would be "From Landlord to Relationship Counselor." Something along those lines.
Yeah. I think my wife asked me if I was going to be a marriage counselor with those two tenants. So interesting. They're not there anymore, by the way. So.
Well, let's pivot to another question that I have here. And what would you say is one purchase or investment, right? Could be either one of those two things that you made in your life that you've since regretted?
Okay, great question. I think first of all, as a person that loves continuous education and learning, I think we all learn as human beings from our mistakes more than our successes. So my regret that I had over real estate over 25 years is I bought a piece of speculative dirt back in 2007, probably about 60 days before that tanked. So that was bad timing. That was bad timing when you buying anything speculative, just raw land with the promise of hopes and dreams. Thankfully, I got out of that one on top, but it definitely took some time to get out of it.
Thank you for sharing. So you've been what I would call very successful in your real estate history. Your entrepreneurial background speaks for itself. You're the American dream. Okay. You're what everybody wants in terms of a life. Charlotte, North Carolina, have built successful businesses before, have gotten into and are currently still in the real estate, game. Two beautiful children, a beautiful dog. You've got that RV right in the parking or in the driveway. So, how have your priorities maybe changed over the course of your life? Now that you've had a professional career now for a couple of decades, right? You're kind of looking at the next decade of your life, right? That's before you. How have your priorities changed in your life, over the course of the last, couple of decades?
Answer is twofold. I don't think my priorities have changed. Family first. And I think every single one of your listeners would probably always agree to that. But I love real estate and I love business. Like I eat, live, and breathe entrepreneurship. So my priorities haven't changed, but what I foresee changing, I'll call it, is the ability that passive real estate investing has the ability to do. So knowing that I have, 6 months into this and loving every minute of this new, I'll call it, journey of real estate to me, what I love is the future forecast of being able to have more freedom of my time that I can give back to family, friends, or, hitting the links maybe a little bit more. So that is what I look forward to in the future, very near future.
Yep. Yeah. I would say that's the very similar story to myself and many other investors that I talk to is the constant daily hustle, the constant daily grind of building up their businesses or, crushing it in their, professional careers. And then they get to this point where they realize, time is limited, right? There's only so much time that we have. And so, while our priorities might all be in alignment and haven't really changed, our focus on wanting to spend more times on the things and the passions that we love to do, is certainly something that I've seen a lot of other investors go through as well. So question for you, kind of taking a pivot from the main topic here, but if you had $1 million in cash on the sidelines and to invest, where would Drew put his money? And it doesn't all have to be in one particular place, but I assume Drew wouldn't put that under his mattress in Charlotte, North Carolina.
No, I wouldn't. So I wouldn't go looking for that there. I would put two-thirds of it in real estate, specifically passive investing. That's where you're leading me. That's a no-brainer because I love the ability of the monthly returns, distributions, which some peers and I call, at least I call mailbox money. That's kind of fun. And then here's the other one. Here's the fun one. For the other third, I would as you mentioned to it before, my family does enjoy the RVs and the camping. I would take the other third and upgrade our camper to an RV. I think that would be creating family memories, and that would be putting really family first and putting that priority of what I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, that's great. There's no better place to really connect with members of your immediate family than when you're locked in a box over the course of many days and weeks. And in our case, we've even gone months at a time in our own RV, traveling around the country. So
yeah,
yes.
We love it. It's a lot of fun for those that haven't experienced it. I would highly suggest it, but I was apprehensive at first, and my family has absolutely fallen in love doing it. And I have the fortunate ability to work remote for the most of my career, and being able to work remote with my family and in a different state is pretty awesome over the summer typically.
That's great. Well, maybe I'll see you at a future RV park one of these days with the fam.
Done and done.
So what's one or two ways that you use your talents to give back to others?
Yeah, education. I am in the education space. If anybody looks me up, that is kind of the space that I've been in for 18 years. And let's talk about, let's unpack that. Education means multiple different things. That doesn't mean being a teacher. I've never been a teacher, but, education is giving back and what I believe is helping others, right? Being able to help others, I think is the best asset that I have to be able to give of my talents. I think we have a similar background and starting out story. My education originally in that realm was giving back and being a youth director at church. It then went into helping develop a preschool education system across our country, and now being able to educate people on real estate. So, it takes different paths, I guess, over the course of my lifetime, but it all comes back to, helping others is really what it all comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Speaking about education, and I know you mentioned the book Passive Investing Made Simple. Outside of that particular book recommendation, if somebody wants to learn more about, passive investing in real estate or just real estate in general, what would be maybe one or two other books that you'd recommend?
Yeah, highly invest that book that you mentioned before, Passive Investing Made Simple. That was the first book that I read that was that light bulb changing moment. The second one is The Hands-Off Investor. Man, equally good. I love both of those books. I read them back to back. I probably consumed them all. Man, probably within a 2-week period. I'm a big Audible listener. I'm in the vehicle a lot. Traveling with my children for sports activities here and there. So I got a lot of windshield time. So I would highly suggest whether your listeners read those or listen to them. They'll really help a lot.
Drew, what's the next bucket list item you want to check off?
Personal. I'll take that as a personal one. Travel more with the family. That is for sure. My family and I have a sweet spot for the Caribbean. Love that. Don't necessarily get to do that quite often, but I would say that. And then my ultimate bucket list is to be able to golf at St. Andrews sometime while I'm still on this planet. So that would be the ultimate for me.
That sounds great. So, Drew, I really appreciate you joining us today on the Freedom Point podcast. How can our audience connect with you to hear more about what you're up to?
Yeah, I'd love to connect with listeners anytime. I am routinely on LinkedIn, so you can look me up, Drew McWilliams on LinkedIn. Contact me that way, or you can just email me at drew@startingpointcapital.com.
Drew, thank you so much for your time today, and have a great rest of the weekend.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the Freedom Point podcast, powered by Starting Point Capital. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Freedom Point podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. If you're interested in connecting, you can find contact information at startingpointcapital.com.